we are back on Soch ttalk Train of Thought with a series of an episode with Mr. Virendra Gupte, who is a consultant, corporate trainer and the company director, and also was part of an Tata International Limited for 37 years. Sir, I think it's a great insights what we have got as a holistic approach towards the business excellence, even in terms of as well ethical practices which are concerned in terms of social accountability and in terms of an VUCA world also. Now, the young audience, the practitioners who are listening to us on this ttalk show, as a part of a career advice, like what would you emphasize on if you have to give an advice to today's youth about the education and making their career like?
In a way, it's a tough question because are the youth really looking at your advice?
Yeah.
On a serious note, I think we need to have a very meaningful conversation with our youngsters because they are going to be the future torchbearers.
Correct.
We have done whatever a little bit in our life in terms of whatever opportunities, we feel blessed. God has been kind. We got that level of exposure, experience, and so on. But one important responsibility we have is to hand over the baton to the next generation of youngsters who will be, in a way nurtured to become managers, maybe decision makers of tomorrow, thought leaders of tomorrow.
Correct.
But one thing is very clear is that based on our respective experience as faculties in B schools where we engage, and constantly I also keep on harping this to the students is the level of preparedness required in a tough world in which we are. The VUCA world, the world which is a knowledge society, the disruptive world around us. We spoke about redundancies, upskilling, being contemporary.
Correct.
Because the so-called breakthroughs you have made today will sound to be totally a relic of the past in a matter of time because of knowledge obsolescence or redundancies. And from that point of view, it is quite a tall order for this generation to actually, be confronted with these challenges. And therefore, the level of preparedness matters. At the end of the day, there are no free lunches.
Correct.
And they should not expect free lunches as
Correct.
well. And therefore, they need to be focused in the first place, be very, very particular about the career options they are going to exercise in terms of the counseling they may get, for example, by counselors, experts. But once they are decided that this is their calling, then I think what is important is thorough engagement and involvement. I gave an example of how in our working career we were amazed by the level of preparedness by our counterparties, customers, supplier, vendors, other stakeholders whom we interacted within our country, outside the country. I think similarly, students at the threshold of their career need to be, well prepared proactively rather than being reactive. It is unfortunate that many times you come across situations where students are totally, unaware of certain basic issues in terms of reading. Let's say newspaper, today morning's headlines. Forget about reading books, etc. and so on. And I think that's a very important point I want to drive here. One is, as we discuss about vocabulary and articulation skills, but that can only come when you have got some basic knowledge, understanding.
Correct.
It's not about mugging a textbook or your syllabus.
Correct.
It's beyond that and the world around you. And therefore today it's the macro environment around you, the industry, the country, the world, and so on and so forth. Because I would like to flip this question in a different way. Suppose, Doctor, you are the CHRO of a global company and you are on an interview panel and interviewing youngsters. What would enthuse you when you are talking and interacting with individuals is the level of enthusiasm in the first place.
Correct.
So to my mind, the starting point would be the mindset and the attitude. Right. Many times there are umpteen examples in the corporate world where somebody is highly qualified in terms of academic credentials.
Correct.
But unfortunately, they are misfits in an organization for two reasons. One is that they are too ahead of their times in terms of their understanding. And secondly, they are unable to work in a team dynamics.
Correct.
Okay, they are loners in that sense. Either in terms of self-persecution complex maybe, or arrogance, either way. So to my mind, what is important is that open-mindedness, the thirst and the hunger to learn, to imbibe. Number 3, positive attitude and mindsets. Okay, and I think that's the key. And then develop a certain domain expertise in their chosen field or area, because that is very critical.
Correct.
And the reason is that there's such a huge amount of competition between your fellow students sitting on the right side of your desk or your left side of your desk. Okay, who's your competitor? Somebody in the next neighboring classroom in the same institute, institutes in India and the world.
Correct.
That's the level of competition. Okay, so whether you're in tier 1 metro city or you're in a rural India, so it is something where you need to prove your credibility. And then the ability to learn. So let's say you got onboarded through campus placement. I tell students that is the best part that has happened at the initial stage, thanks to the credibility or the brand of your institute. But then later on, what happens is, how do you actually, perform while in your corporate career, whichever you are opted for.
Correct.
In terms of your placement through the campus. And that is where you are getting evaluated every day of your existence in the company. In terms of your body language, your attitude, your approach, your deliverables. Okay, it's a summation of everything.
Correct.
In terms of your timelines, let's take simple example of punctuality. Swiping your card to be in the office in time.
Correct.
Right? Basic discipline, the way you communicate. Okay. And all that is being observed not only by your immediate supervisor, but people within the organization as well.
Correct.
It need not be that you are evaluated by your immediate superior. You are also observed by other business colleagues, vertical heads, and other colleagues who are not concerned with you at that point of time.
Correct.
Because when we talk about 360-degree feedback, sort of an assessment process, somebody will say, oh, here is a young promising boy or a girl, in our company, and I look at their enthusiasm level, for example.
Correct.
A casual conversation by some business head to the supervisor.
Correct.
Is good enough, sort of a validation or a testimonial.
Correct.
In that sense.
Correct.
So, and that the other important thing is that the whole quest for learning, in terms of upgradation of skill sets and knowledge. Now, fortunately, today, there are many, knowledge is something which is available.
Correct.
Okay, on platforms like Google, for example. One can spend, days and days, looking at, let's say, a McKinsey website or a KPMG or a Deloitte website.
Correct.
That is the knowledge that is available.
Correct.
Provided we are able to access. Or we have the inclination to access.
Access and all.
So to the students, I think there is no free lunch. There is no easy path. There are no shortcuts. If you have to create credibility as a professional in the making, and more importantly, the last part of that thought is that if you have to assume leadership responsibilities going forward, okay, it's not about cut and paste type of a mindset.
Correct.
Here you'll have to raise your hand when there is a need to do that. Correct. Where you are then telling your management that I'm prepared to assume additional responsibilities.
Correct. Right.
Okay, or you're not a 9 to 5 types who would like to swipe your card at 5 p.m. and rush home.
Correct.
Nothing wrong in that, I'm saying. But then the issue here is that the leadership is looking at somebody who's able to shoulder additional burden. I won't use the word burden, responsibility. Okay, in terms of diversity, in terms of versatility, in terms of looking at new challenges in a company.
Correct.
Because on the one hand, the companies are doing, restructuring the organization, trimming the workforce, and so on and so forth.
Correct.
Trimming manpower, and so on and so forth, in terms of manpower budget. On the other hand, existing employees of the company, if they are able to shoulder additional responsibilities in a way, they become in a way indispensable.
Correct.
Right? Because the management is always looking at somebody who will assume more responsibilities.
Correct.
And therefore it suits those individuals, provided you have the right mindset.
Correct.
And moreover, the rigor, okay, the ability to be determined and focused, and be also patient and perseverance as well. Don't expect immediate rewards from the organization as well.
Correct. Take some time,
because many a times you now hear conversations of youngsters who want immediate, instantaneous gratification.
Correct.
They want reward recognition immediately. But that is not going to happen immediately.
Correct.
It takes time, right? There is an evolutionary process there.
Which is there.
And I think that level of patience is missing in the world of the generation of today. Which is something which they need to in retrospect, I guess.
Correct. I think it's a great insight for the youngsters who are listening to Mr. Virendra Gupte. It's a great valuable advice which is given through his experience. I think what we need is in today's scenario is like corporates are considered 85% as an attitude which matters a lot for you to take your career ahead, and 15% is towards an education. And imagine the amount of time what we spend in getting those 15%, but what matters to the corporate is an 85% of an attitude, your willingness to take an additional responsibilities. That's more important. Like, sir, thanks a lot for your journey of 37 years which you have shared on this
God has been kind.
And the kind of an the knowledge sharing, the kind of an experience what you have shared with the target audience, I'm sure it's going to do a world of good. Like, if you like this particular episode, go to www.ttalk.net, subscribe, like the channel as much as you can, and catch up with Mr. Virendra Gupte on our next episode of T Talk Ek Soch Ki. Till then, thank you very much. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.